Super Bowl week, Mike Macdonald, the third youngest head coach to make his Super Bowl debut. We've seen some quarterbacks lately that are older than that playing in the Super Bowl. Mike Tomlin was 36 years old. He's the only one on this list that won the Super Bowl in this first shot. Sean McVay, of course, lost the first one, then won a few years later. Bill Cowher got his several years after '95. Zach Taylor still waiting to get back with Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Carthon and Ryan Wilson are going to go through how this Seahawks iteration was built, because this was a Super Bowl winning team a decade ago, and they move on from Pete Carroll. That was, 2 years ago this week, I believe. They move on from that legendary coach, and then they hire longtime Ravens assistant Mike Macdonald, and it went relatively uncelebrated. It didn't seem like there was a lot of fanfare with that hire.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Macdonald, if you know Mike is a really intelligent guy, but he's super intense, super driven. He was a guy that we really liked during the Titans interview search and thought that he did a really nice job with us. But this has been a really good hire for them, and you talk about just the type of work he's done, the type of culture that he's brought in, and the guys have all bought into it.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And the thing that's interesting about Mike compared to the Patriots counterpart, Mike Vrabel, is that he is not a former player. He's not a rah-rah guy. Not that Vrabel's necessarily a rah-rah guy, but he is, as Rand points out, very cerebral, and sometimes it's hard to translate that to the locker room full of players who are out there running full speed, putting themselves on the line to make plays. But you talk to anyone on that defense, they have all bought in. In fact, Rand and I talked to DeMarcus Lawrence before the season, and he could not say enough good things about the direction that defense was going. Little did we know, DeMarcus included, how good this team would be. But it just goes to show you that you don't have to get the prototypical NFL head coach to be successful. You can get someone who is incredibly cerebral and who gets guys to buy in early because of that success. And the other thing is, I'll say is this: Pete Carroll was insanely successful at Seattle. In the 2 seasons, Mike Macdonald's been so good that no one's even thinking about Pete Carroll and all the things he did prior to his arrival.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's already had a job and been fired from that next job as well. He had some pieces, though, that were already in place before he got the job. The front office did a fantastic job of that. One big piece was Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was drafted a year before, but even a year into his NFL career, we had no idea he would turn into maybe the best receiver in football in year 3, did we?
No, and I remember being at his pro day, and the number one question that every scout had was, how fast was he? How well was he going to run? And could he play on the outside at the next level and not be a slot only? And so I just remember being there. He ran 140, I believe, on my clock. I had him at a 4.51. He was plenty. He was really excited about that time, and then you went out and you just watched him run routes, and the technical aspect of his route running, the smoothness in which he had, and the body control in which he runs route. He's just a natural separator that knows how to get open. But like you said, no one saw this coming. And so at the time when they took him, it was kind of like, well, let's see how he's going to fit. How's that going to work with Tyler Lockett? How's that going to work with DK Metcalf? But like you said, Chris, he's had a super good year this year, led the league in yards, I believe, or was in the top 2. But more than anything, he's established himself as a bona fide star receiver, and coming into every week, knowing that the other team's defense is going to focus on you, he still finds a way to get open and have an impact on games.
Rand, I think what you said is so incredibly important to underline and repeat, is that you just don't know. And Chris, I'll mention this. I was also at Ohio State Pro Day. Rand didn't say hello to me once. I tried to get his attention, and he just ignored me. But we were both watching Jackson Smith-Njigba. I heard he was a 4.51 as well, and it is crazy to think that everyone was excited that, okay, that's fast enough. He did battle soft tissue injuries at Ohio State, and that was one of the concerns. But if you remember that draft class, JSN went off the board first, then it was Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, picks 20 to 23, and that's the first wide receiver to come off the board, and it went pick 20. If we're doing a redraft, JSN's the top 5 pick. Again, fit matters. Sam Darnold obviously playing out of his mind yet again in back-to-back seasons, and Jackson Smith-Njigba has exceeded everyone's expectations, and he's somehow the best wide receiver out of Ohio State in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, which is crazy because they've had so many dudes come out of there. But again, a big part of what they're doing success-wise in 2025.
We're used to seeing guys make big jumps from year 1 to year 2 and year 2 to year 3. But the next reason on your list that the Seahawks are in the Super Bowl is a guy who made a jump from year 9 to 10 and then 10 to 11 that maybe we didn't see, and it's Leonard Williams, who is somehow playing the best football of his career in year 11, Rand.
Yeah, Chris, and so I just want to be clear. I want to be clear to the people watching, listening, to the Seattle fans. JSN will be my only mention of the Seattle's offense the rest of the way as we talk about the moves that they made with how this team was built, and I'll tie it all together at the end. But you talk about Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams, like you said, Chris, has had a resurgence. And Ryan said something not even 2 minutes ago where he said fit matters. Leonard Williams' fit into this Mike Macdonald defensive scheme has been, it's been tremendous, because what you don't give Leonard Williams credit for is his versatility, his ability to line in multiple techniques. He can play the nose. He can play the one. He can play a 2-eye, a three technique, a 4-eye, a 5 technique. You can move him all across that defensive front, which allows Mike Macdonald and the other defensive coaches to put their best people on the field and mix and match guys and to find the right combination to either stop the run or get after you as a pass in the passing game. And so Leonard Williams being, John Schneider having the foresight to be able to trade for Leonard Williams when he did in his career and still see that they have a fit for him. I mean, it was huge. And then for them to be able to have Mike Macdonald come in and put some structure around it has been not only great for the Seattle Seahawks organization defense, but also for Leonard Williams as an individual.
And then Rand, Macdonald comes in, and his very first draft pick is a guy that you put right there with him on that defensive line in Byron Murphy.
Love Byron Murphy coming out. I remember just going back to that draft class, doing my work back during the fall of that year, watching big Tavondre Sweat, who I took in the second round with the Tennessee Titans. But you walked away like, hey, who is that other guy? You know, on the other side of him, who is that guy? And he is, when you look at him, he's not the tallest, he's not necessarily the biggest, but he can do it all. He is a man in the middle. I called him a little fire hydrant, just by the way he's structured. He's hard to move up front, but he can beat you with quickness. He can beat you with speed. But again, when you have him, when you have Leonard Williams, when you have Jarran Reed, and you have all those guys that can play that interior for you, it really allows Mike Macdonald and these defensive coaches to get their best guys out on the field.
Rand, quick story from the combine when we had Byron Murphy on the set. His calves, one calf is probably as big as my waist. The other thing is, I asked him, who'd you struggle with going up against at Texas? And he said, nobody. And he said it, he was as humble as he could be. He said, I didn't have any struggles. And I think the tape bore that out. And he has certainly been fun to watch in Mike Macdonald's defense. So
much new blood that we're going to see in the Super Bowl, getting their first taste of a Super Bowl game. The Seahawks also have a Super Bowl champion in Ernest Jones. Won a ring with the Rams in 2021. Rand, I think you were a part of a trade for him in Tennessee. You traded for him and then you traded him away. Did you see this for him becoming an All-Pro right now? Clearly there was talent.
Well, I'll say this, the trade in getting him in terms of what we gave up for him and then being able to trade him and get a better pick, it looked great and it made you look smart on paper. But Ernest Jones and who Ernest Jones is as a player, forget the numbers, forget the 120 tackles, forget the 5 interceptions. What Ernest Jones brought to the Titans defense when he was there was the stabilizing guy in the middle. And that is the same exact thing that he brought to Seattle. And how ironic is it that what he brought to our defense in Tennessee under Denard Wilson, who did Denard Wilson work under the year before? He worked under Mike Macdonald. And so Mike Macdonald, seeing that in that system, knew that he fit the system in Seattle, and we traded him away, and he's been an absolute stalwart for them. But here's where I wanted to tie it all around and why I didn't mention a Sam Darnold. And we all know Sam Darnold's been a great addition to that football team, and a lot of where they are now is because of Sam Darnold. But and Chris, you talked about it at the opening part of this segment, this team and this organization has been led by defenses. And so the most popular defense to come through Seattle has been the Legion of Boom. And I'm going to rattle off some names, right? And Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Brandon Browner, Byron Maxwell, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, Red Bryant, Chris Clemens, Brandon Mebane. If you look at all those guys were key components to getting the last Seattle group to the Super Bowl. The formula in which they did that, and the formula in which John Schneider did it, it was drafting secondary. We've seen them do that with this new group, and a mix of UFA signings, trades, and then the draft to really build the front seven. It's that same formula that they've been able to use to build this defense, which is now going under the moniker the dark side, which has really got Seattle to where they are today.
I'm glad you mentioned the reasons why Sam Darnold was not listed here. Clearly, he could have been one of those 5, but so many to choose from on that defensive side of the ball as well. Rand Carthon going through how the Seahawks were built and now on the cusp of a Super Bowl title.